So it's Easter afternoon. Same day Jesus rose from the dead. 3 followers of Jesus heading out of Jerusalem. I wonder what drove them out of the city. You have any guesses? Were they leaving because they were afraid? That would be perfectly understandable. Last week we heard that the inner circle of disciples were locked in an upper room in Jerusalem for fear of the religious establishment. Were they angry? I don't think that's a stretch at all. To all appearances, they had wasted a good portion of their lives following this Jesus of Nazareth who claimed to be the Messiah and ended up getting crucified by the Roman authorities. Was it just that they didn't want to think about it? They had to keep busy, and all they could think of was to get out of town? Was Emmaus the Door County of Palestine? Or were they genuinely sad because they had lost a friend to a cruel and violent death? There probably wasn't one reason they were heading out of Jerusalem. There were probably many reasons. They were heading to this village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. And whatever the reason or the patchwork of reasons, it all came down to this. They were trying to leave behind something hard, something not fair. They were trying to escape the reality of Jesus' death. They had experienced pain and hardship, and their physical walking and their geographical distance was a way for them to try to put it behind them. Do you have an Emmaus Road? That place you go, that thing you do, that food you eat, that is your go-to habit to dull the reality of what you do not want to face or cannot figure out. Emmaus is whatever we do or wherever we go to make ourselves forget that the world can be hard and unfair. Emmaus is those places where we spend much of our lives, you and I, the places we go in order to escape. A bar, a movie, binging TV episodes, a pizza, wherever it is that we throw up our hands and say, let the whole thing go, it doesn't matter anyway. But there are things that even in Emmaus we cannot escape. Oh, we can escape our troubles, at least for a little while. We can escape the job we didn't get or the friend we've hurt. We can even escape that nagging thought that lingers way in the back of our minds, wondering if life really does make sense, or whether the religion of Jesus is just a lot of wishful thinking. But the one thing we cannot escape is life. Life shows up on the Emmaus Road. Life with a capital L. Life walks beside those disciples. And when Jesus inquires about the topic of their conversation, they simply cannot believe what he tells them. Are you the only one who has not heard? Oh, no. No, believe me, Jesus has heard. He knew better than anyone what had just happened and what it all meant. So Jesus began to school them. Going all the way back to Moses, describing God's acts of redemption with Israel, taking them through the prophets, telling the stories again, showing how it all came to fullness and completion in Jesus. And I imagine this long lesson filling the duration of the walk. And finally, Jesus gets through the prophets. And they've arrived at the home to which Cleopas and his friends were heading, and Jesus intends to continue the journey Instead, they invite him to join them for dinner. And that is just the scene that the brilliant Italian painter Michelangelo Caravaggio has captured in a painting that is reproduced on the back of your bulletin. If you don't mind, pull that bulletin out. Look at the painting with me. Now, clearly, with any great work of art, we tend to see different things, but I'm going to tell you what I see. Jesus, of course, is the figure at the center. His hand is extended in blessing and his eyes closed as if in prayer. I love the different reactions of the three sitting at the table of Jesus. For the guy standing behind him, everything is reduced to a profound sense of wonder. The guy seated across from Jesus, see how he's leaning forward, trying to believe the unbelievable. It's almost as if he's trying to reach across the table to verify with his hand what his eyes are telling him. And then the guy at the side, retelling the story with his wide, broad gestures, as if in retelling it, it might become more true. But I'll tell you the thing that captures my attention. It's that dish that's hovering at the edge of the table. Looks like it's about to fall off the edge. Several years ago, I got to see this painting when it was on loan to the Art Institute of Chicago. And it's huge. It's nearly life-size. And I remember standing behind the stanchions with this urge to step across and push that dish back into the table so it doesn't fall. The dish suggests the tension of the scene. Is the dish going to hold or fall off? And I think it captures the tension that is still in the hearts and minds of those disciples. Is the Jesus that is sitting across from them real? Is the story he was telling them true? It's a good question for us to ask. Is it going to hold together? Will the faith that we find relatively easy to believe when things are going well still hold together when they aren't? Is the resurrection life that Jesus promises more than just wishful thinking? We need to constantly be reminded of the truth of the Easter miracle. We need to hear about life in a world that is so full of death. When we gather here and I see you and you see me, when we hear the word, when we sing a rousing Easter hymn like the one we started with today, Christ is alive, the Christians sing, the cross stands empty to the skies. Yeah. And then the Spirit comes among us. And the Spirit opens our eyes. And once again our hearts are burning. And this is the good news precisely that we need to hear to lift our flagging spirits, to remind us that our disappointments are temporary, and to put that joy back in our step. We, brothers and sisters, having touched with resurrection life with a capital L, we've been pulled out of the shadows to live in the light of God's rich love and grace. As the second lesson encourages us, through the risen Christ, we have come to trust in God who raised Jesus from the dead and gave him glory, so that our faith and hope are set on God. And let me tell you, that moment of recognition in the Caravaggio painting is rehearsed again and again and again and again in this assembly. Again and again and again and again. We come to the table and our eyes are open. We see the risen Lord. We eat his body and drink his blood. This table, where Jesus is the host, we are the guests, and Jesus himself is our food. In the eating and the drinking, once again, we receive the love and the grace that is his risen life with a capital L. We are sustained by this meal for whatever journey lies ahead of us in the week to come. Not only does Jesus invite us to his table, but we are joined by our brothers and sisters. No one travels alone. We are surrounded by our fellow travelers. Someone is always there to take our hand, to lift us up, to join the conversation, and to walk beside us. Friends, savor this moment. This moment when we join the supper at Emmaus. Our dashed disappointments turning to hope. Our disappointment turning to joy. The road is before us. Jesus walks beside us and with us. This is the movement of our faith. From cross to empty tomb.